Hi, everyone, and welcome to Amaria Healing Podcast, all the way from Alberta, Canada. My name is Nancy. I am an intuitive healer, facilitator, owner of two businesses, and now I guess a podcast host. So I'm so excited for today's. I'm so excited for today's podcast, especially the topic that we're talking about, which is, do we really have free will? And joining us today is Jamie, who is a life coach, author, and also a healer. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
I'm
good. How are you?
California.
She's all
So,
the way right from California. So there you go. Canada and the USA. See, we're friends. So yeah, today's topic, Jamie. Do we have free will or is everything predestined? What do you think?
this is something I've been kind of mulling over for especially over the past 2 to 3 weeks. You and I talk all the time, right? I love like numerology and numbers and all that. That's kind of, how things come to me. But it's really interesting because I start to wonder how much free will do we actually have? Because it kind of makes me think, in astrology and numerology, and you and I have been discovering this destiny matrix stuff. And it makes me just kind of wonder how much is predestined because that stuff is all written based on your birth date, your location of birth, you can even get down to your name, breaking down into numbers and all of that. And it's just like, goodness, is all that stuff already written? Or how much control or not about control, but how much impact can we actually have?
Well, how much choice do we actually really have, right? So yeah, it's really interesting because like I was diving into like different different religions have their different theories on it, and then then as a healer, in sessions, me being able to see different timelines and because I do quantum healing, so it's being able to see like even like when people quantum jump different timelines, so what is like, is it predestined or is it a choice? And like I was listening to this one TikTok where he was saying that, which kind of makes sense, that we have free will to a certain degree. Okay, so
Mhm.
we, and everything is predestined. So as a soul, you create your whole life. Okay, so everything is already created. So that's what we call destiny. So destiny, they're saying that destiny and free will, it's one and the same. They go hand in hand. They're kind of connected. So like your destiny is, as a soul, you come in and create what you're going to go through and the hurdles and things like that. And so that's why when you get the deja vus, it feels like destiny, or you get the synchronicities, it feels like destiny because you've already planned this out, right? And so that is one way of explaining, okay, destiny. But within that life journey that you plan out, you can make the choices within
Mm.
that life journey. So like
Do-
which is probably based on like traumas and things like that, or choices, and I think he was saying that in order for you to make, like, you can do a lot of free will choices depending on how much you're actually getting done in your life path that you've already created for yourself. So that, I thought that was kind of interesting.
do you think then that when like you have those deja vu moments, do you think that's actually you remembering like your plan from like before you came into this world? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I always wondered about deja vus. So, because, like, when you're, let's say, in the spiritual community, especially like new agey, um, deja vus are like, oh, you're on the right path. So that's
Yeah.
what they kind of consider what a deja vu is. But I think it goes a lot more deeper than that. I think deja vus are also connected to probably multiple lifelines or lifetimes that you're having at the same time. So some future, some past, like everything's happening all simultaneously at the same time, right? So
Mhm.
I think deja vu is part of that. And
Yeah.
so brings me back to, then, is it predestined? Because if you're having your deja vus, and that means you're already experiencing it somewhere else, right?
Right.
You're
So
getting just these reminders.
it's almost like a flash to another moment or something, and you see it in the current situation. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So
It's super interesting topic because I mean, you know my love for numerology and everything, and you and I've dabbled in, as I said, this destiny matrix, and it's so weird how when we've really dove into it so much more to discover what everything means, it's like we start to understand, and we're like, oh my god, that's really kind of spot on for, or close, I would say, for a lot of events, a lot of lifetime changes. And I know, like, I've had my numerology done and all that, and I've been told, based on my pentacles, which there's basically four pentacles in a person's lifetime, is that, she was able to pinpoint when I did a major shift in my life. And she's like, you went from something very family oriented until then you got your freedom and you kind of went and you traveled and all that. Well, that's exactly
mhm.
when I decided to, move kind of abroad for the first time in my life. And so it's like she could see that some major life event had happened like that. And she described it to me before I even told her what had happened. So it's like, God, she can go back and see that that happened in my life. So was my plan just always there? And like, should I have like really looked at what my plan was for my life much earlier on? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you who don't, before, I hope you're not zoning out in terms of, I don't even know what the Destiny Matrix means. The Destiny Matrix is another form of numerology using like the tarots and the major arcanas, and it's like a chart. So it's a chart that pretty much can tell you like um like what you're gonna go through at like every single age. I think all the way up to what was it? Is it 79?
70. Yes.
70, 79, or 76, 79?
I don't
Anyways,
remember.
up to a certain age, so it'll tell you like externally like everything that you're going to go through, and also like internally it tells you like the things that you'll bring in from your mother's line, like your ancestry, so your mother, your father. And then it also explains like
Relationship.
relationship, love, karma, what the karma that you're working on this lifetime. So it's a really 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 cool uh, tool, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, so we were dabbling in that, and Jamie found that it was just very like on point to everything that she's gone through up until whatever age she's at right now. So it's kind of interesting how, which means then everything is predestined. It's everything's already like in on the bigger scale, then everything is pretty much planned out, and the only thing that you really do have are maybe the free will to choose within your lifespan.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
go
read
ahead.
something the other day about free will, and it's, because you mentioned karma. So maybe let's dabble a little in karma. And then another place I want to dabble is a little bit in traumas. But
Mm.
in karma, we all know what karma is. I would say it's kind of this fashion term now. Everybody's like, karma is going to come and get you, whatever. But karma is, as Nancy said, the things that, you're kind of bringing from the past that you're here to resolve and to kind of pay your debts, right? I don't know if you want to go any further, Nancy, on karma before I dive into my where I was going there,
No,
but
you pretty much said it. Well, I mean, I like the word because karma is more like an old term, I guess. Like the word, the law of cause and effect, right? Because there's
oh
all these universal laws. So the law of cause and effect. So everything that happens has a result, right? So, and yeah, you're right. A lot of people think, oh, karma is going to get you, but karma is neither good or bad. It's just a
yeah,
balancing. It's a scale. So
yeah,
whatever you put out, you're going to get back.
mhm,
Right? So you choose. If you're going to put out good, then you're going to have a balance and more good's going to come. If you're going to put out bad, well, it's just going to rebalance it, and you're just going to experience it for more learning lessons is basically what it is, right? So yeah, a lot of people view karma as punishment, but it's
it's
not.
not punishment.
Yeah.
Definitely something you
So
have to balance. So yeah, so what I was reading and what I heard, or not heard, but what I was reading about was about your free will, as far as, when you are having to come back and maybe pay back karma or to make a choice about something, you're learning lessons, right? So we're
mhm.
learning lessons this lifetime, and that's, that is the whole reason why we're here. Well, the thing is that you are given different opportunities or different moments to either pay back that karma or learn that lesson or something, right? No matter kind of what topic you want to put in there. But what I understood is that because you have maybe different, and I would love to know your thoughts on this, because you have different moments that you're going to be tasked with being able to learn this lesson or to resolve this karma, that maybe it's more about if you choose now to do it or you wait till the next moment of to have it, and so that's where your maybe your free will can come in. And
Mm-hmm.
I also read something where it's like, well, you kind of have still a timeline to resolve it. And so it's like the first time, maybe it's a little bit more gentle. The second time, it's a little bit stronger. And then, it's like when that timing is like running out when you need to resolve it, then it gets a little bit more aggressive, and not aggressive bad, but like the change is maybe harder or received harder. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that or like what you think about that.
About having to deal with your karma, like either like quicker versus slower, or
Versus, maybe that's where your free will can come in, is like you choose actually when you actually try to resolve it.
well, which is interesting, Kale. Just to hold that thought and remind me to go back to that, because it's
Okay.
interesting that you're talking about that, because that also kind of ties into predestiny, where so the Kabbalists, their view is that like everything's predestined and you do have like free will choice, but you also have higher destinies.
Oh,
So yeah, so you have higher, which I would correlate that to higher, like multiverse, like higher dimensions and timelines and where you're at. So I would kind of equate it to that, where you have higher destinies or lower destinies. So for them it's like, okay, so in order to get to a higher destiny, you have to kind of go through the learning lesson,
mm-hmm.
and then once you complete that learning lesson, then you're kind of in this darkness, right? Like if you ever gotten hit with like a learning lesson, like one that's really penetrated your heart, you go through this darkness, but this darkness of reflection, and where you go internal, that's the bridgeway to going into a higher destiny.
So
Okay,
are
so
you
you
talking about like the higher dimension? Is that like raising your
Well,
frequency?
that's what I'm saying, because they're saying so. But even the higher destinies are pre-planned, is what they're thinking, right? So basically, saying if you don't learn your karma, if you don't kind of rebalance that karma or that lesson, if you don't complete it, if you don't get it, you don't raise yourself to a higher level of destiny, which means, or it's because it's better, like a higher level of destiny is better, and so you're kind of stuck in this like learning pattern where you'll repeat it over and over and over again. So yeah, so you do have the free will and choice, you're right, to choose, okay, am I going to complete this lesson
Mm-hmm.
and learn from it and let it go, or am I and heal from it, or am I going to stay in it a little longer, because whatever, however it serves me, like whether it's attachment or whatever, whether it's because trauma, like, then yeah, I think you're right, I think I agree with that. Like you can pretty much choose how fast you move through your lessons and your karma, like, and so, but yeah, and then you can get to that higher state of destiny from what the
Yeah.
Kabbalah, from what their theory is and their belief system is, right? Or basically just move on to your next project in your life path, right? Because if everything's already pre-planned, then whatever you have, you can't get to B without completing A. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a video game. You got to pass stage one before you can go to stage two, and then stage three, and then stage
Right.
four to get to the end. So
Exactly. And if you're like
different
me,
levels.
I want to go straight up. I hate the scenic route.
Like if I go back to Super Mario Brothers from way back when, you want to take the little magic tube and go straight to the top.
I love that was, like, not to get off topic, but that was my favorite game. I love Super Mario
Same,
Brothers.
same. I loved it so much.
I
Oh my
played
gosh.
all in one, two, and three.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
all my favorites. Oh my gosh. That
yeah.
that
Well,
kind of dating us, Nancy. I'm sorry.
yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. Like, I mean, yeah, so again, I guess that's the $1 million question. Do we really have free will? And, like, is everything predestined? And, like, I mean, even take traumas, because you wanted to touch on trauma. So, what exactly did you like? How are you connecting trauma to free
Well,
will?
so what's interesting is the things that I was reading about trauma was really about, obviously trauma is not good, right? Nobody wants to imagine that they have a lot of traumas, but everybody has traumas, and there are different levels and different types. And I don't want to ever to diminish anybody's traumas or to make it seem simple, right? But
Right.
I think they're there to trigger you to realize you have to work on something, right? It's to trigger you to start that work, because when you live in trauma and you have all those responses, you don't, maybe you're not, something's not settled inside of you, and so it's harder to find happiness, or maybe it's harder to find a partner, or maybe it's harder to find a job. I don't know, whatever it is, right? It starts to limit you and your possibilities, I
Yeah.
feel. I'm not going to say it blocks you fully, but I'm just going to say it limits in how you move in this world, to then maybe then it limits you in other ways, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like, it's not, nobody ever wants to, I don't want to say, trauma is good. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I think trauma is set to trigger you to start to learn some of those lessons. And I think, they're linked to karma, they're linked to all of that, right? So I don't know, I just kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit, because trauma
No.
seems to be, it's definitely a big thing these days. It's becoming okay to understand that you had traumas and not to be embarrassed by your traumas, and nobody ever should be embarrassed by their traumas.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I just want to, I think it's just accepting them and knowing that you want to do something different about it and to process that healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first point. And I think the second point maybe I'd like you to touch on is like past lives and the ancestral traumas and all that, like, so it's not just trauma from right here, right now, right? That you have happened, maybe
No.
childhood or whatever, that's triggering you today. But so I don't know, there's a lot kind of in the trauma world that I think we should maybe touch on here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, it can go from, like, the trauma that you experience presently within a relationship, all the way to childhood trauma, all the way to past life trauma, and all the way to your fathers and mothers and grandfathers, and all the way, like, ancestrally. So we are really pretty much taking, and that's karma also, right? So you're taking on that karmic debt of your mother or your father, and you're healing that as each lineage. If you have that awareness, you're healing that trauma, because sometimes the trauma is not even yours. So sometimes the trauma and the karma isn't yours, but you're healing that for your lineage. So that's why a lot of people that are doing that, like, especially in, like spiritual people, they have such a hard, like, a hard life, because they're healing all the generational trauma and rebalancing that karma. So then again, that means that we really, I mean, that's predestined, I guess. And do we have a choice to heal it or not?
But maybe your free will comes into when you start to allow yourself to accept, like, that free will, like, because we're in this movement that it's not that trauma is okay, but trauma, everybody has trauma. We're recognizing that there's a lot of, conversations about trauma these days. It's like that in this society today is very different, for example, from our parents, right? In the past,
Yeah.
where it wasn't accepted to talk about that stuff. So is that free will? Have we started to come into this collective free will now in this day and age where it's okay to talk about it? And so now we are doing that. Or was it predestined? Like, I mean, it's like, were we as a group of people meant to do this shift in this world to make it okay, so that we can start to heal some of those things?
Yeah.
So I still think that, I still feel like, because obviously for me, my personal experience is there was a long time where I just didn't even realize what my traumas were, and because I didn't have something that I thought was in the major buckets of some sort of abuse or something like that, I didn't think I had traumas. And then you start to realize, oh my goodness, this was my trauma. And we're not here to talk about what our traumas are, but like, it's like, oh, I do have traumas. I do need to accept it and work on it and to realize it. And was that my free will to start to work on it now? I mean, maybe I was destined to do it in this lifetime, but as I said, I'm now at a moment in my life where it's safer to do that. So is that my free will to say, okay, now I'm going to work on that?
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, that's kind of my thought about it, is that I
Yeah,
feel
'cause
like, yeah.
I think you're right, because I think once you have that awareness that, oh, like if you really like go deep within yourself and you have that awareness, okay, these are the things that I need to work on, these are the things that I need to heal, these are issues that are coming up, whether they're coming up because you're within a relationship or just self or family or friends or whatever, and you have that awareness, your free will of choices. Do I want to work on it and heal and move past it, or not do the work and just continue on just being in a chaotic, mindset? Because that's really what it is. Like, it's your body that's in chaos, right? It's your body kind of like when you're in trauma, your body's giving you all these signals to be like, hey, let's work on something. So you do have free will, like whether you want to ignore it or whether you want to, like, okay, there's an awareness here, let's do it, let's dive deep, and you know I guess that's your free will choice,
Yeah.
right?
What do you think happens if we don't address it in this lifetime? Like, what do you think happens at that
Then you're
point?
going to repeat it. Okay, so it's kind of like this. It's I'll give you a relationship, okay? If you're in a, let's say, unhealthy relationship, okay? And not everyone in the relationship is going to have an awareness, okay? So like, but if, let's say, you're aware it's unhealthy, it's not good for you, but you're realizing these things need to be healed within yourself because it's triggering a lot of your childhood wounds or past relationship wounds or even like ancestral wounds or whatever it is that's triggering it. And then you decide not to not to heal it, and then you either break up with the person but don't do anything about it, or you continue to stay in that same relationship. You're going to keep repeating that same pattern of triggers until you heal it, until you make that choice to heal it. If not, then okay, you're just going to experience it again in the next relationship, and until you clue in that, okay, that this is a me problem. Not that it's a problem, but this is like something that I can control for
Hmm.
myself. I want to heal it. I want to let it go, or whatever it is that I need to do for myself so that I don't have to repeat this again. And then
Hmm.
that's how you heal it and move forward. And then that karmic tie, that karma, which is connected to whatever the choice that you're making, done, complete, and you can move on. And I guess that's their way of saying you move on to a higher destiny. You move on to a higher vibrational frequency, right?
Yeah.
Because you're healing.
Yeah. And I think that example, I mean, I think we've all been in that example at some point in our life. Let's be
Oh,
honest.
I've been
Um,
in more than one examples.
hey, I wasn't going to say that, Nancy. Come
Oh
on.
no, this is raw and authentic. Oh yeah, I've had like all these many experiences of realizations.
Yeah. Well, but what's interesting is that I think that it's about doing something different, right? It's about making a choice and choosing yourself, right? And not being afraid to voice where the issues are, right? And I
Yeah,
think it
yeah,
doesn't matter, like you can stay, you can go, whatever, but if you stay, the things, they have to change. I mean, that's the point. They have to change. And if they don't change, then you're just sitting in that cycle,
right.
and you can choose, hey, this is just not good for me, I just need a break from it, and you can separate and go on and move to the next one. But like
Yeah,
you said, man, I've done it too. So I've had repeated relationships where they look exactly the same because I was too afraid to voice how I felt about it or what I wanted to be in the relationship.
yeah,
And and where my boundaries are. So I think it's really interesting where boundaries come into play, especially in this type of example. And I'm wondering, are boundaries actually part of your free will and your free speech, to kind of add something into that? Like, that is maybe part of that free will, is imagining what are those boundaries and knowing where those deal breaking points are so that you know whether you should stay, you should go, you need to heal this, that, whatever. So I don't know, maybe that's something there.
I think boundaries are part of free will. I
Yeah,
think
I
so. I do, but I think it's also part of the destiny. So like if it's kind of like if you pass the test and you put in your boundaries or whatever, you're kind of you're doing that, then that's your free will, that's your choice. Because I mean, you can be boundaryless, which is fine. There's no judgment on that. But like if you're putting in your boundaries, then you're doing something for yourself. You're elevating yourself. And so, boo, I think that's a tick on like, okay, free will, but also okay, well, we're gonna it levels up your frequency, right? So so I think
Yeah.
it's both. To
Right?
be honest, I think boundaries is both.
Well, and I think there's one more piece though that boundaries do for you is right that self-love, that self-care, right? That's putting
Mhm.
yourself first and speaking your
Right.
boundaries. And they don't have to be harsh boundaries, but they just
Mhm.
have to be boundaries, and they can be gentle ones or they can be really extreme ones, right? And
Yeah.
it's like just doing that just gives yourself a giant hug. And I think that's also part of that free will is whether or not you love yourself, and I mean, hopefully everybody's destined to love themselves, but it's not easy. We know that's really some for a lot of people that's really tough, and
Yeah.
just give yourself that hug with those boundaries. That I do think that is a little bit of free will there, or
Yeah.
maybe a little bit. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, which is kind of interesting that you're talking about predestiny and free will with boundaries. So apparently, we are predestined already. This is already a program to meet 5 narcissists in our lifetime.
oh,
Yeah, get
yeah.
that. So I was listening to this TikTok.
Two, three,
Um,
four, five, six, seven. Are you sure there's not more?
apparently, nowadays you never know, right? But yeah, so apparently,
No,
I think
I'm
three to
just
five. I think it was 3 to 5, but I think he said mostly 5. Um, yeah, that we're destined to meet 5, and those are also learning lessons, or like kind of like tests to elevate your to a higher destiny. So, and they were
wait.
saying, yeah, it's kind of interesting. And so, if you learn your lesson, so okay, hold on, let me see if I'm getting this right. You have up to 5 narcissists, but if you learn the lesson quick, okay, so it'll
That
prevent you
timing
meeting the
thing
rest. What?
that timing thing again,
A
your choice.
timing thing. So let's say narcissist one comes in, okay, and you don't learn the lesson, and you guys break up, you're destined to repeat that again with another narcissist. So then the other narcissist comes in, and if you block the narcissist, okay,
Uh-huh.
then you make room for the other one to enter. So
Yeah.
you have to deal um or heal the pattern that you had with that narcissist, and learn that lesson with that first narcissistic interaction. If you don't, then you're destined to meet another one who will do repeat the same pattern until you heal it. It's weird.
That's super interesting because I mean, it doesn't have to just be in partners, right? It could be a
No,
boss, it
a narcissist could be your
could
mother, your father, your sister, your brother,
I mean, a friend, it could be,
coworker, friend.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
I know, right? And I thought that was
Interesting.
interesting because because if I have to count how many narcissists I've met, I'm like, okay, one, two, 3. That
You,
means that I did not learn it the first time. I did not learn my lesson the second time, and I actually finally learned it the third time. Okay, and the third time is whatever. So they were also saying that narcissists are attracted to the parts of you that you don't love about yourself.
ooh, they trigger that, huh?
They trigger that. So if you haven't learned that, if you haven't healed that about yourself, then you're going to attract that narcissist. So for me, my learning lesson is insecurity and self-worth and all those things. And so if I don't heal that and I don't move past it, I'm going to be attracting the same pattern that'll
That,
trigger that. So they trigger that in you, that healing part of you.
oh my goodness, it's just
Ah, how
so
about that? Like, oh
okay.
shit.
Just had another thought pop into my head, and it's not complete deviation. Obviously, we can come back to this part too if we want to. All right, I just was thinking about soul contracts now,
Okay.
and
Connected to free will and choice?
yeah,
Or, yeah.
Yeah, because the reason why I started thinking about it is like, well, do you have a soul contract with these narcissists to like trigger you to then like learn? So, or is it that those are more random? Those are like your little oh God, in like a video game you have these little barricades and like different things coming to distract you and whatever. I don't know why I'm referencing so many video games. I don't play
You
video
must be,
games.
have you been playing video games lately?
Not, and I don't play video games. So, but I don't know. It's just like images are popping in my head, and I'm seeing all these narcissists running at me like in a video game. Anyways, uh, so yeah, no, I'm just going back. It's like, were those narcissists? Do you think they were like soul contracts, or do you think they were just like, I don't know, like just little barriers along the way, things that just come and trigger you? Like, who do we think are actual soul contracts? Is it like obviously, our parents, we get like a contract there? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, like, or do we literally like make these soul contracts before with everyone, or like in our entire life? Is that predestined, or I don't know? What do you
Yeah,
think?
if I had to guess on based on that TikTok that I watched, then yes, we plan everything. So before like we are contracted with a narcissist, we are contracted with like the person that's going to break your heart, we are contracted with the person that you're going to spend your life like. But if you look at it in a different way, it's like when you're a soul, none of the stuff like narcissism and all that stuff, this is like all earthly things, right? So none of that exists on the like on a soul level, right? So really it's two souls coming together and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do together for whatever reason. You're learning, my learning. Oh, but it's going to be tough and it's going to be hurtful. And then you have a blackout plan. Okay, if this doesn't work, then bring in the backup plan and keep bringing in up to five, I guess, whatever. Keep bringing them in until I finally learn my lesson. But I will learn my lesson at narcissist number five or whatever. So if everything was predestined, then everything's already planned and you're making these contracts with these people. That's why some people that you meet, okay, so they're narcissistic, but you meet them and they feel like soulmates, and there's all these synchronicities that happen because this
Mm,
is what you guys have planned,
mhm,
before you came here to go through all this. And so you think that, oh my God, this is destiny. This is so, but he's my soulmate. Even though this guy is triggering all these toxic traits, within himself, you, and whatever, because that's what you plan, or he or
mhm,
she. And then all of a sudden, like, like you're like, oh, but that's my soulmate. But why, like, this is why we have to be really careful with soulmate and twin flame and all these labels, because
mhm,
really they are all soul contracts,
mhm.
and another podcast for another day. But yeah, I really believe that like everything is predestined that way, that you're choosing what you're going through with certain people for your growth and your expansion, really.
It's so fascinating, it's so weird to imagine that, because you feel your life just, going, right? And it's just feels like it's just rolling. And here it is, it's like, oh, yep, she's right on schedule, right on plan.
Yeah,
So now I have another question because
bring it on.
you do quantum energy healing,
I
Nancy.
know, yeah.
I love the topic. So jumping timelines, how does that come in? Is that a free will situation that you're choosing to jump that timeline, like to be on something else, and or what do you think about that? Like, because that is, I don't know, that's just kind of weird. Or is that also destined in there? I don't know.
Ooh, that's a good question, because I think that is more of a free will. I mean, I
Hmm.
know they're saying that even within the higher destiny, like in Kabbalism, whatever, the higher destiny that you go, that's also pre-planned, because in the beginning, like everything was created. So like everything has a creational root pinpoint. So like
Right.
there's a point where everything was created, right? So creation, creator, however you want to say, universe, creator, God, however you want to label it. There's a point where everything was created. So if everything was created, and then everything has already been planned, right? But I do believe that like jumping timelines, I think is a choice, is a free will choice, because I only say that from my experience, because, and I mean, people do it with awareness, and some people do it without awareness, right? And so, I think that that's choice, only because of the healing sessions that I've had where I've seen like a person kind of just veer off their timeline and go on to somebody else's timeline, or a bad timeline, right? Just because of the choice that they made. So if you can jump a timeline because of a choice that you made, then I believe that that's free will. Yeah,
Interesting.
that's what
Um,
I think anyways. I mean, I'm not saying it's fact, but this is just with what I've experienced and what I've seen. Yeah.
it's such a fascinating topic, like going through all of this and just like trying to figure out like what is a, free will versus destiny, or
Yeah.
it's just so interesting for me to think about, astrology and numerology and all these things and being like, God, did we have all those clues when we're born? And we should be learning that stuff earlier on just so that we can know like what to expect. And then but then sometimes, I feel like if you knew all of that up front, it'd be like, oh no, I don't want to go there, I'm gonna go over here, because do you think that could impact? Like if you knew this type of stuff earlier, do you think that you would choose to maybe jump somewhere else? Like,
People are going to probably ask, how do I do this? How do I do this timeline jumping? I'm like, okay, guys, if you really want to learn, take my course and I'll teach you how to do it. You really want
is
to learn how to do it?
that,
It's not fun, I'll tell you that. But
well,
sometimes it is.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's, well, you make a good point because, okay, take numerology. We have numerology, we have the destiny chart matrix, we have astrology, we have runes, tarot. What else do we have? Am I missing any? We have like
I
the
mean,
Vedic astrology,
Chinese astrology. I mean,
Chinese astrology. Okay, so take all of that. Okay, if you take all of that, it's reading your future, your future, your past, and your present, which
mhm,
means that it's pretty much pulling information from your current timeline, which means that it's pulling information with on something that's already predestined,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Because if I can, if the destiny chart matrix, if it's so on point all the way to, let's say, 76 or 79, however, that means that it's predestined. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's already like it doesn't matter what you do, like you're going through this, whether it's a new relationship, marriage, kids,
Mm,
change, tower, whatever, it's predestined. And same with tarot, so I these tools, then, are they just within this timeline, then
mhm,
anchoring? It's even the akashic records, right?
mhm.
Like if you want to talk about predestiny and free will, then where do the akashic records come into play?
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Right.
whole other can of worms to open up, right? Like,
Exactly.
but
So
including our life things, right? Of events basically inside of there and what's going to happen.
yeah,
So
right.
that's really, really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you take religion, God exists, right?
Hmm.
And so if
Hmm.
God exists in their belief system, then that means everything was created. So everything is pre-planned, you know,
Hmm.
but then you have certain choice. So for religion, their perspective, I'm assuming, would be like, destiny. And then
Hmm.
inside the destiny circle, there's a free will choice,
Yeah.
right?
Some smaller choices,
There's
basically.
smaller choices, if you go into, let's say, some of like again, Kabbalah is more like, I think, the opposite, where it's like, um the higher, well, no, it could be the same, like, again, the higher the destiny, but that's still pre-planned, but you still have like choice to elevate. I think it's, which one is it the Christic, or just the, I'm not sure what it falls under, but where it's the opposite, where all your free will choices are, the more you elevate and the more you heal, you have more free will choices. And
Hmm.
then, so like the higher you go, the higher dimensional you
You
go
pass
in your
it,
frequency,
you get more free will.
you get more free will, right? Yeah. So it's
Yes.
kind of interesting, like every theory, philosophy, ideology. They all have their different, so nobody really knows the real answer is nobody really knows the answer. There's just a certain feeling about it, right? So I guess my response would be go within and feel what's right. Like, I mean, and base it on your experiences.
Your intuition. Everybody has intuition. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that inner wisdom, right? And ancestral wisdom. And everybody has that capability. They just have to foster it and to really, reach inside and find it. So
Yeah. And I'm
I
going to
don't.
ask you a question. Actually, let me ask you a question.
Oh,
How
oh,
how has free will
mhm.
or predestiny shaped your life?
Oh God, that's a really good question. Well, first of all, I was able to free willy.
I love Free Willy. Wasn't that a movie?
My
Isn't
free will. I chose my breakfast this morning. Free
is that a movie? Free Willy?
Willy, yeah, was a movie
What
with
was
a
the
big,
movie?
like killer whale.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was really funny.
Free Willy.
Yeah.
I love me
So,
some Free Willy.
oh my gosh, we can go on with that, but
I know.
um,
Let's just stay on topic because I could totally change.
yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I'm making choices like breakfast, like I want this versus that, like I'm feeling this versus that. I don't think all those things are predestined. So I'm like keeping it really simple for that. And I think, um, I started thinking a little bit about travel the other day and like, do you actually just choose your trips, like where you want to go based on feeling, or is it actually
Mhm.
predestined? Is also is to help you to open your mind to learn a new lesson. Like I
Mhm.
used to think it was more free will, more reward, and but I don't know. So I mean, it's definitely opening my mind. I don't I don't know that we can ever from any of the tools we ever have. And maybe some people will disagree with this, but I think there's all the predestined stuff like numerology, astrology. I think they are definitely very accurate to a certain point. Destiny matrix, there's a lot of pieces to come in. They tell you different pieces of you, right? I don't know that it tells you the full story. And so I don't know if you're ever going to know the whole full story. And then you have
Yeah.
psychics, right? And then, of course, they can be dabbling into more positive energy versus negative or reverse energy, right? Like there's that part too. Like I do believe they can see and they can tell you and all of that, right? And you and
Yeah.
I are quite intuitive. So, we know that can exist, right? But I still don't know if you get the full picture, and I still don't know if you're going to be able to answer. And I think that's why we can't answer this fully today. And what which is it, right? But what I will say is that what this has opened my mind to is just realizing, we need to heal. I obviously would strive for more free will, but that's okay if I'm still in the more predestined area. If I haven't risen
Yeah.
high, that's fine. But I think it's more about enjoying the journey of learning and understanding that life is really like that's the takeaway I'm taking from it is that I'm still learning. I still need to learn, whether it's predestined or free will. Like, if I see something, I need to choose whether or not I want to heal it, and I need to understand why I'm choosing yes or no, right? And that part, is a little bit my free will right now. And at some point, we all go through moments, and I've had some moments, not that long ago that a lot of things were hitting from a lot of different angles and sometimes you have a max of what you can deal with at one time. So you choose, I'm going to work on these things, and these things I have to just kind of let go of for right now and wait and address them later. So I think there's that part. I'm understanding that probably that is the place where I do have some choice. But just realizing that the major events and the major things, they are kind of there. And I think I feel them inside. Like I can feel, when I feel like something is going to happen in that way or not. Right. So I don't know. That's just kind of how it's shaping me. I don't think I'm ever going to know exactly what my whole life is planned for the rest of my life. I don't, know necessarily when I'm going to die, so um, I also don't think maybe you have free will about when you're going to die. So,
Mm. You don't think
you
you
know,
can choose like a different timeline on your death? A
I
different, like,
mean, yes, if you really want to try to jump timelines to either delay or something, but I don't know, I just don't know.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's
really
interesting.
my mind thinking, keeps me like wanting to learn and to understand more. And, I think that's why you and I wanted to do this podcast today, is just to kind of put a lot of things on the table, and just
Yeah, and just
discuss,
talk about it.
you know,
Because
and
I'm sure people like, like especially the spiritual community are wondering these things, like do we have free will? Because in the new age community it's very very much like free will, right? Or is everything predestined? I mean, and predestiny, it's so romantic if you really think about, oh, everything's fated and destined, and it just gives it a more romantic feeling. And then you've got free will, which is, it's more of a it's freeing, right? Like, yes, I have free will. I mean, it's interesting though, because like you brought up psychics, and
Mhm.
with like I also wonder sometimes, because even like being intuitive, and I get a lot of my messages, from my team, or creator, through a lot through dreams, okay? And I will get messages that aren't even connected to me, but through other people, and
Mhm.
other people, let's say that they're like the two people that they're going through, and I will get that message, and I'll be like, what does this song have to do with this situation? And they're like completely shocked. And so, like, so does that mean that I'm tapping into their destiny, or am I intertwined into or is that like whatever destiny, and like things like that? Like, it's like do I have a choice? Because really, like, I don't want to like, like if we went to free will, like that means that I can choose. I don't want to have those dreams or whatever, or these messages. Like, can I tap out of that? Not my business. But then I still get them. So really, is where's the choice in that, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's just when you tap into their energy, right? I don't think it's necessarily that you have to be connected to it. I mean, look at some of the psychics out there, I mean, there are some famous ones on TV, right? And they start, even getting feelings or feeling like pains, or mediums, and stuff. Like, they actually feel the pains from the person who's wanting to communicate, right? And until they can deliver that message, they often feel those kind of pains and stuff. And so, I don't, I think it's just when you tap into the energy, or the energy is just bugging you enough to like want to be communicated, right? And so, but I don't know, I don't know. We're all here on this roller coaster ride, I feel like, of life. And, you know, I, I don't know, I may change my mind at some point, who knows? But I think when you learn some of your lessons, I think that, I can really go back to what you were saying, and that you start to get a little bit more free will. You start to
Yeah.
feel like you surrender to something, and you find a bit more peace. And I think ultimately we're here to really find peace, right? And all those karmas and traumas and all that, right? They're triggering you, making you not feel at peace and not feeling pure joy and happiness, which is the natural state, right? And so I think it's knowing that, like, that affects me, like, because you asked me the question, I want to be in that state, and I want to be in that state more than I'm not in that state. And ultimately, obviously, I would like to be in that state all the time,
Yeah.
Um, so that in itself, just inclines me, and I would encourage others to be inclined to want to work and to find, well, what does bring them that, so work on work on your karma, and all that kind of stuff to get to that space. So
Yeah. So I think we can take from this, like, do we have free will, or is everything predestined? At the end of the day, whether we do or whether we don't, it's what we're doing, in our life to heal, to move forward, to grow, to expand, to have peace, to have happiness, to figure out what's our life purpose, to,
yeah,
hit everything that we want to do within our lifetime, right? So really, at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think we have both. I think there's free will and there's things that are like destined that you have to go through. And I think it's there for you to heal, move forward, and get where you need to go. And and like I said, like and some people like the scenic route, some people like to go for gold fast. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And none of it's wrong. None of it's wrong. Sometimes
no,
it's what you handle at the moment, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
It's only
that's
you only know within yourself if it's too much. And if it
yeah.
is too much, then that's, your kind of point to like, okay, let's move forward then. This is too much. But hey, if your threshold is you can handle a whole bunch of whatever, then power to you. Right? Yeah. So I guess that's where we can take this and end this is, yeah, at the end of the day, as long as we're healing, growing, expanding, and changing, and hitting our goals and our visions, and I think that's all that really matters. And just being happy and being
Yeah.
peaceful. Like,
Yeah.
who wants to be miserable all the time, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, so many people that are in the spiritual community, it's like, you strive, right, to have awakenings and to, level yourself up, more and more. But I think we're here on this earth to enjoy 3D pleasures, to enjoy this world as it is too. So not forgetting to enjoy, nourish our bodies and take care of ourselves so that we are doing that as well. That's, I think, another piece of it. So
exactly, right? So, I mean, it just pretty much paints a picture of everything. Like, everything, like, where the picture frame, there's whatever, and the picture that's in there, and whatever that looks like for you is what it looks like for you. And that's really all that matters, right? So, yeah, well, thank you, Jamie, for for joining me in this really hard first topic. Do we
ah,
really have free will, or is everything predestined? Like the answer is we really don't know. I think it's both. What do you think?
I think it's both, but I think at different moments it's shifting right between which part is heavier.
Mhm.
Maybe it's coming back to that balance.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's both.
Yeah, there you go, guys. So, hey, shoot a comment down below if you think, we have free will, or if everything's predestined, or if you agree with that. Well, it's a little of both. Let me know what you think. And if you have a different, idea about it, let us know again, because I'm so open to learning. And like, again, like, we have no answers, so, and I think together as a community, we can get there faster, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and hopefully we inspire somebody to think about it, and if
Maybe.
not, that's okay too. But we're here just to talk, and that's all we want to do is to really to try to help people. So
Exactly. And if there are other topics, that we've kind of touched on in this conversation that you didn't understand or you want to know more about, let us know also. And yeah, we can definitely have that as a separate series on a podcast and talk more about it.
yeah,
All
looking
right.
forward.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks, Jamie. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I guess we'll be talking soon.
Sounds great. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye. See you soon.